Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Farhbach. The world is richer, safer, and much more peaceful than it was just 1 year ago, claimed Donald Trump at Davos while launching this Board of Peace, a U.S.-led initiative now attracting Central and Eastern European attention. Hungary and Bulgaria have already signed on, while Poland, Romania, and Moldova weigh the strategic, economic, and geopolitical costs of participation amid concerns the board could undermine the UN and challenge EU cohesion. Now, the initiative raises urgent questions about legitimacy, Russian influence, and the role of smaller nations in global diplomacy. Now, to discuss it all further, we're joined in the studio by Eusebiu Slavitescu, former Romanian diplomat. Good to have you back on TVP World. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So this idea, the world is richer, safer, everything is going really well according to President Donald Trump. This Board of Peace, in your mind, does it have any legitimacy as an actual international organization? Is this just Trump projecting more power? Which is it? Is it something in between? Tell us.
I would say I would go with Trump trying to project power. He loves power. We know that all too well. And to some extent, he's trying to, modeling something of a UN kind of organization, except it's not UN. And the legitimacy is just not there yet. And the main issue, I would say, with this organization is the text. The text, this is also the reason why Europeans have been really cautious about this. Because first, 1 billion, that's a lot of money. For Romania, for example, that's a lot of money, and we are in some economic trouble, probably, as you already know. Secondly, what's the point of having a board peace if the text gives all the decision-making to President Trump? So what's the point of that, right? It's not a qualified majority or some other rules as we've seen at the UN or within the European Union. So this, for me, is the main issue why Europe or France rejected, Germany about to reject, the UK probably is going to reject it. Probably most of the European countries will probably reject this invitation. Canada was disinvited this morning. So I really get it, and I know they are trying to, to work out the texts. I'm not sure what is going on in the coulisses right now with the Trump administration, but in the current form, I don't think that happens. And to come back to Trump's statement, it's a richer and safer world. To some extent, it is. Look, the axis of evil, right? Russia, criminal Russia, North Korea, Iran, China. Iran weakest as ever. If this regime will hold, which I do not think will be there by the end of the year. Venezuela is out, and Maduro was a criminal. We all know that. So from this perspective, is the world safer today? It is. He's right about that. Is the world as an international system better off today than it was a year and a half ago? It's not. Because the Trump administration is undermining the very international liberal order the US created, and that has so richly and disproportionately benefited the US. So why is he doing that? I don't get it.
Also, to your point, as you said, it doesn't even mention President Donald Trump as chairman, just his name. So in assuming that he would then still be able to do this once he's out of office.
And again, I mean, we have the midterms coming up. We know that things in the US right now are not doing very well, and I'm being very diplomatic right now. And we know the opposition in the US is strongly against all of these things. So the midterms can really, put a stop to this. But if the Democrats win the presidency, this sort of organization, I'm not sure this can be sustained.
Right. But there's still a long way to go until the midterms, though. But so let's get back to what has happened recently. And I think you said certain countries in Europe are more cautious. They've either refused the invitation completely or still kind of mulling a polite no, maybe. But let's look at the map as well, because I think some of those yeses have come from not Western Europe, but from Central and Southern and Southeast Europe.
Indeed.
So if we look at Hungary, for instance, has joined. If we look at Bulgaria, has joined. If we look at also recently Albania, I think in the last sort of 24 hours also has joined. So what does that tell us about this region as well? I mean, this raises obviously the profile of these countries to some extent, but what does it do in terms of democratic legitimacy? What does it do in terms of cohesion? For their reputation that they have joined this?
Listen, each country, they have their own national interest. And I get it. Albania, for example, some member of the European Union still don't recognize Albania, including Romania. So for them, it's quite smart.
There was Kosovo actually.
Kosovo, sorry, yes. Yeah. So it's quite smart. Bulgaria, the outgoing president, I'm not sure where this is heading. So again, I don't have a problem with these countries looking after themselves. It's absolutely normal. And if they have 1 billion euros to put it, by the way, what's happening with this money? We don't know yet. That's a lot of money. So what they do with that I have no problem with that. Again, I would have rather preferred to have a European response to this, which we have to some extent with the exception that you mentioned up until now.
And then also, zooming in, an interesting point you said with Kosovo as well. If we look also at the imagery, I mean, we have President Osmani there.
Yeah.
Kosovo still, as you said, some countries not recognizing it, but that does add some sort of, let's say, at least for PR purposes,
of course,
some kind of...
Of course. And again, this is the United States of America. This is the most powerful, richer, stronger nation in the world. So having a seat behind, I get it. I mean, I really get it.
So we have to weigh all these things. Some are now gaining, let's say, more attention. But if we look at countries, let's say your own former Romanian diplomat, what's the logic there? The, let's say, cautious approach here. What does that signal also? And let's go out a bit further also with Moldova. Didn't receive an invitation, but let's go into this particular part of the world. Give us that logic.
So for Romania, I think it's a no-go if you ask me. Again, public diplomacy, we are very cautious because you have to be careful what you say these days. Otherwise, the next day you can have a tweet on Romania. That's not a good thing. First, 1 billion euros, Romania doesn't have that money. We cannot afford that, especially with a tax that actually gives nothing to Romania. Some people are seeing this like a protection tax, right? Because you have the United States behind your back, so that counts for something, and it does. Secondly, I really don't see how President Dan or even President Karol Nawrocki can sit at a table with criminal Putin or dictator Lukashenko. I mean, it just can't happen. And this is also one of the reasons why Romania will refuse this. In some form, they will probably find some fiscal reasons, or I'm pretty sure this is how it's going to go. And also, we have to stay united in Europe. We have to stay. And again, what legitimacy this board of peace has with criminal Russia on it? Also, Russia is a member of the Council of Security, the UN Council of Security, and 4 years ago attacked its neighborhoods, brutal, criminal, and illegal invasion of Ukraine.
But with Russia, as far as I'm aware, there's still no confirmation that they have actually joined. They're considering this board of peace, but we don't know if that's going to go ahead
actually, yet. Russia said yesterday they are willing to participate. If that billion euros is taken from the frozen asset in the US, and President Trump said, why not?
So still a lot of things that could develop, but let's go also with a recent statement, Polish Prime Minister at this informal European Council Summit, which ended Thursday evening, said that Europe is at a crisis point. I want to come back to also a leader who was in the room during the signing, which was Polish President Karol Nawrocki. How do we analyze this? Because you have also an invitation that was sent to Poland. Two different sides here of a nation that wants to at the same time be a transatlantic bridge, same time a bulwark for Ukraine, two different political forces. What's the future of that? I mean, that alignment, where do you see this going?
To be honest, President Karol Nawrocki is right, although we do have different visions about it. But EU is going through a crisis like never before. Look, the whole Greenland conversation, right? That was bullying. And I think it rose a lot of attention in the European capitals. And when we stand firm, with Macron's speech, Mertz's speech and everything, or Canadian, very good speech, by the way, he stepped back. Because when Europe is united, there's absolutely nothing we cannot do. We're just not there yet. And yes, look, the transatlantic relations at this point is at its weakest point ever, if that trust can ever be rebuilt again, because it took 80 years to build that trust, and now it's out the window. And for what? Because the US, what the agreement is reaching with Denmark probably, it's some form of the agreement from 1951. And the US could have always done that without going through all of this madness. So the transatlantic partnership at this point, if you ask me, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. And this is a wake-up call for Europe to finally stand up and to become a powerhouse. I've listened to President Zelensky's speech yesterday. It was a harsh speech, to be honest, but absolutely true. Absolutely true. He put it a mirror in front of Europe, and we saw ourselves naked. And he was right. It's time to step up. And by the way, this is what President Trump has been asking of Europe, to step up. And he is absolutely right in that.
Right, okay. So, I mean, it's been quite a whirlwind for geopolitics. Look, thanks so much for sharing insights. Always a pleasure having you in the studio here. Eusebiu Slavitescu, thank you. And thank you for joining us. But stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.